Hello everyone, welcome to another installment of the Splash HD weekend event. Today we have Crash 4 back again. We had the completion category done, all clear gems, sorry, done a little bit ago, and now we're back with any percent. Today we're bringing you a 2v2 relay race between four very good any percent runners. And before I introduce them with me, I have Comms. I have Gaffy Taffy and Cookie. Gaffy, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure thing. I'm Gaffy Taffy. Used to be a Crash runner, kind of a Crash runner still. Been loving the Splash stuff. I am excited to see this race today. I'm also joined with Cookie, who is pretty good at the game.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can say that. I'm pretty good. I'm Cookie. I mainly do the all clear gems category, like Logic said, mid completion. Pretty fun category, the best category.
And I guess with the runners we have today, with the category we have today, how do you think the runners are going to be doing? Like, who are you in favor for today?
Me personally, I never doubt out Crispy. I think he's one of the most consistent top level runners, but I hear Solarium's been on that grind, so it'll kind of come down to, I think, Reidzz and Tears.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this race will be super interesting because we have Solarium that is a contended for getting a sub 120. His sum of best makes it that super possible. It's just getting consistent at the game. Then we have Tears. Tears doesn't have that much experience with any percent, but he has been putting a little bit of work. His PB is not a sub 130, but his sum of best, for what I know, is in the mid 123. So we can't ignore. Yeah, I think we may have possible PBs, probably by Tears or Solarium, if I would guess.
That would be the Splash legacy, of course.
Oh yeah, we gotta keep tradition. Everyone's got a PB in these marathons, 100%. So with that in mind, I guess if you guys can give the viewers at home just a rundown of what we're to be expecting for any percent, we'll switch over and begin.
Well, so Crash 4 is definitely one of the most volatile any percents there is out there. This is a high pace, I'll say, exploit. You can lose a lot of time all over the place, but it's very cool wherever you do. Lots of out of bounds, a lot of mass tricks. And it'll really come down to who is able to kind of pull it off first. Yeah,
this speed game, we like to meme a little bit. It's very skip and glitch heavy, and having a good time, it just depends on, like, not only the fluidity of your movement, but also on how well you can execute those skips. Some of them you don't lose that much time, but others are super crucial that you nail them first try.
Now, important question for you, Cookie. Are you an R1 person or a circle person?
Oh, I'm the correct person. I'm the R1, of course. R1.
Okay, good.
Of course.
Good. Just, making sure.
Like, even me, I can imagine, like, just taking your thumb off square, because we're gonna explain it a little bit further. What's the fastest type of movement? I just can't imagine, like, consistently taking your thumb off of square.
I wanted to ask, before we get down to it, is there like a bit of rivalry between the inputs for the run? Is there like factions that kind of try and drag the new runners in, like, and this is the preferred way to do things, you know?
I think we see it less in this game, but in ST it's a whole thing. More so with faster games like C2, C3.
Yeah, because in NST, the hop slides that we've seen so far, it's a little bit of a timed movement, right? So you have time to, like, switch from square to circle, and more oftenly that time that time that you take to switch between the two buttons is what makes the hop slides super fluid. But in this game, I think like R1 is definitely the choice because you need to spam R1 and spin.
I guess to be fair, I'm one of the weird ones that kind of switches. I'll initiate a hob with R1 and then chain it with circle. And it's just a weird muscle memory that I can't get over now. I blame melee or something.
Okay, so far Rude Awakening seems to be going pretty well for both runners. No deaths, actually, no dying in Rude Awakening. Very difficult. Actually, very difficult.
Now, awesome to see they both kind of got that first optimization that was really found for this level, which is fairly straightforward. Then the difficulty spikes tremendously soon, but they both kind of skipped that platforming section, able to use a body slam to predict the platform coming out and also give you a slight vertical boost.
Yeah, every time you body slam, you get a little bit of height, and that height was just enough to skip that platform. You see Reidzz there? He waited a little bit for that rope because he actually manipulated cycle on the third rope. The rope cycles here are all local based, so he purposefully waited there at the beginning to not trigger the rope, so he could trigger them at the exact time that when he got to the third rope, the rope was in the position that he wanted. A little bit of optimization saves 2 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. That just goes to show like the little bits of optimization that this game doesn't even have 1 year that has been released. If someone can correct me. And yeah, this game so far has been pretty optimized. And yeah, we're looking forward to see a lot of optimizations. A lot of skips and tricks are being found, even as of today, last week. And yeah, definitely, we're still expecting a lot to be found.
Yeah, we need to get something solved in here. The story of this, like, run as it's developed has been incredible. It started as like an RTA 3-hour run. We're like, maybe sub 3. That's kind of a long category. And now we're like, can we get to sub 110? Is there going to be something found?
Now, leaving off the first island or the first hub, we pick up the first mask that we're going to be using. This game, unlike the other Crash games, or comparing at least to Crash 1, 2, and 3, has quantum masks that we need to collect throughout the game to eventually fight the final boss. And the first one that we picked up here, Lani Loli, is gonna be able to change a little bit, or you could say switch reality. As you can see here, there's some platforms that are blue, that are phased out, and you can use R2 or triangle to trigger the mask's power to just use its power. Tears unfortunately taking a death there. Didn't take the checkpoint, so he's gonna go back to the beginning.
Now, important tech you might have missed before they started the level. They actually went into the character select screen and switched over to Coco, and both of them picked good skins. So this is actually RNG manipulation. It makes you not a loser. So they're both gonna win now.
Yeah, it costs it. I don't know, man. Those 3 frames, you know, save the frames. Every frame matters.
Save your sanity.
Actually, playing with Coco and Crash doesn't have that many like differences. Now it actually only impacts one of the skips that we're gonna be seeing in the late game, and we'll probably mention it when we get there. Oh, Reidzz getting that cheeky body slam. You know how this game likes to deliver you your body slams even when you don't want it.
It's a really fun feature that most Crash runners are very familiar with, but the button for sliding, which you see you do quite a bit of, and body slam are the same thing. So if you have any height at all off the ground, or if you're trying to buffer it a little too fast, you're gonna slam. Solid way to spend a few seconds.
Yeah, it's also like super deceptive because you can be like the tiniest millimeter off the ground that if you press R1, you are for sure going to body slam.
Just like that, we see that Reidzz has about a 30-second lead, a little more than 30-second lead over Tears, and it's just little things, right? Like so far, it's just been making all the rope cycles and just getting those little things.
Who Reidzz getting some more cheeky body slams there. Bob is definitely not saving him of those body slams. Ooh, and we see Tears taking another death, unfortunately. Thankfully, it's at the beginning of the level, so not a lot of time loss.
Oh no! In what I imagine is a drop jump input, just slides right off into the pit.
Yeah, this I forgot because there's a consistent way that your double jumps actually dropped. No matter how many times you press X, your double jump will drop. It's in a specific situation that I actually forgot.
Found it,
Yeah.
It tends to be if you're over, like if you're actively in your slide spin over an item that is bounceable, so like a crate or something like that, it'll just think you already used it or something. Who knows? I see it a lot. Oh, go ahead, my bad.
Reidzz entering now Hit the Road, the first major skip we're going to see. The skip is super important to nail first try because you either nail it first try or you don't go for the skip at all. Because we're gonna be using a box to bounce on to get a little bit of height, and it so happens that that box is a checkpoint box. So if you break it and you die, that box will still be broken.
It's the only thing in the area. So what you're gonna see him do here, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. Some runners make it look very easy, but he's gonna jump on it, do a high jump, and then make like an L shape with his joystick in the air to land on an invisible platform that, for Bob reason exists.
Then we're gonna climb this little mount of sand, and now we skipped pretty much a big part of the game, of the level.
Yeah, you both don't have to do a climbing platform, a bunch of roping, and then a forced ball section. You can just slide spin straight to the end. Not have to worry about the hazards. Don't go at the slow speed of a ball.
Yeah, and after you do the skip, you can still die because even if, Coco's on top of a road, there are still like some invisible holes that you can fall in.
Awesome. Tears also gets the jump.
Let's see if Tears can get inbound. This is a pretty big time save for both runners to have. And yeah, this skip, if made like perfectly, it can save you up to 45 to 50 seconds. 45.
So wow.
Yeah, pretty big time save to have in the beginning of the run. When this skip was first found, it was pretty difficult because you had to do a very precise jump at the very beginning of the skip. But then we found like a backup, which is now most commonly used. It loses like probably 5 seconds, not even 5, but definitely way more consistent.
Prepare for a feasting, Bandicoot.
Okay, now stage dive. Another major skip.
I didn't realize there was a new strat for this.
Yeah, you can see, normally engine sends you these little minions that you have to bounce or spin back to engine. And every minion deals 1 circle health that you're seeing right there. You're supposed to spend 3 minions and then you can do 1 hit of damage to engine. But with that skip that Reidzz did there, he completely skipped hitting the first 3 minions. And now what he's doing is just landing in between the drums so Coco doesn't bounce, and performing just a standard slide spin.
Oh, did he get a slide spin on that last one?
Nah, he didn't. Unfortunately, Reidzz did not get the last piece.
2 quick ones.
Oh, wait.
That turned into 3? Alright.
Wait, is that it? I have personally never seen that, because he just spun the minion, and all the 3 hits were done.
I think it might have still been kind of buggy from when he first got over to engine. That's interesting. I'm a little out of touch, so I guess I didn't realize this existed. That's awesome.
But yeah, normally you have to spin 3 minions back to engine, and then you can do 1 hit. But because we land on the middle of the drums, Coco doesn't bounce, and we're able to do a slide spin. So the slide does the hit of damage to engine, and then the spin makes you do the 3 hits with the minions that you're supposed to be doing. So it completely skips that part of the boss fight, and if done in all of the phases, it can save you even more than 1 minute. Like, I think it's 1 minute and 30, because the second and the third phase, the minions take a lot of time to come out.
Now, I'm incredibly surprised. It's something that is very easy to find. I think we found that within the first week of the game launching.
Yeah.
And I would have imagined that Bob's would have patched it, and I'm thankful they haven't, because having to do that whole fight over and over would be kind of rough.
Yeah, it cuts the boss fight in more than half. It's a super good time save that we found pretty early on the history of Crash 4.
Oh no, Reidzz body slamming. There's a
Reidzz.
very cool environment texture that you can jump on to bypass the cycle there. And hopefully we see Tears get it. But the swag slams are just too strong today.
Yeah, Reidzz unfortunately has not been a good day for body slams.
I've kind of found that races and marathon settings tend to make me body slam more. It's something about the pressure of it. Just makes you want to eagerly input, and eager equals fast can equal sloppy.
Reidzz taking his first death after failing a slide spin. Not failing a slide spin, but failing a whole skip while doing a slide spin. Tears opting to choose to go for the right path. We actually take the right path in ACG, and for him, Tears, he found that the right path was also more consistent for him in 80%.
Yeah,
using the left path.
Do what you know, especially in a race setting. You want to go safe.
Yeah.
Plus, you're talking minor time save.
Yeah. Tears is definitely more used to the cycles you get in ACG, but he's definitely not like totally oblivious to the cycles you have in any percent.
Now, there's always just so much going on. Reidzz gets the Tana skip, which saves you from having to go through the first section there. You're able to hook shot the checkpoint across the water. Now, if you pay attention, hopefully we see Tears also get it. He's gonna bounce. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, Tears
great.
Tears not choosing to go for that skip. Pretty difficult skip because Tana's hook shot, not the most functional thing in existence. And it's a strat that saves 2 seconds if I'm not mistaken, and if you miss it, it costs a lot more.
Now you may notice this is a different character. This is the first of 3 different characters that we'll be playing in the run, and they're all not fantastic. Dingo's pretty cool-ish, but Tana and Cortex, they exist.
I mean, when they work, they're kind of cool.
Sure, man.
But that's a big if. A lot of the times, they just don't want to work. Like a lot of the times, you should Tana's hook shot in one direction and it completely just goes to another. You know, Tana being Tana.
Catch me outside? Dylan. We are looking at just over a minute in time difference right now, which early on is decently big, but it only takes one mistake. And speaking of mistakes, we are coming up on a very notorious level.
Yeah, Jetboard Jetty, the level where it introduces this tiny little jetboard that you're gonna see for probably 10 seconds, not even 10 seconds. At the end of this level, we have a boss fight called Louise. We all love Louise. But actually, hopefully, in Reidz's screen, we won't see Louise. Reidzz, those body slams.
The damage kind of left him standing on the platform. He's eager to just get out of there. But input said no. So if you haven't watched Crash 4 in a while, there's an interesting thing you can do here with pause buffering, and it's easier on 30 FPS, so that's why you'll see the menuing going on. But if you're perfectly pausing, and I think pressing triangle as you die, you'll kind of mitigate your death. And wow, Reidz's first try, that's insane actually. So now he's invulnerable and is able to just go through the water.
Yeah, he's now in this zombie state where he actually can't die to nothing. He just goes through the enemies, goes through those little anchors. However, he cannot use the Lonnie Lowly mask because, of course, supposedly dead. So he has to do these big slide spin jumps to make across those gaps that you would otherwise use Lonnie Lowly to phase out.
Fun bit of lore for the people at home. Everybody hated the end boss here, Louise. It's just kind of a dumb way to spend a minute. So there was a bounty put out on Twitter saying, hey, if someone can find a skip for this, I'll give you $100. And I think Rico joined in. There were a couple people that were like, I will also pay. And someone who didn't even know the bounty existed just posted like, hey, I think I found something. And thus Louise skip was created. And originally you would just kill yourself off of Louise tentacle, but it was developed fairly recently. That's like, well, if we're gonna pause buffer a death anyway, why not go out through the entire jetport section?
Yeah, and because we're on a zombie stage, you actually didn't see Louise on Reidz's screen, but Tears...
We're about to see it on Tears.
Yeah, Tears not going for it, choosing otherwise to save 2 masks, but unfortunately he lost one. Because you can use the masks to damage abuse on Louise's tentacles to deal damage. But now that he lost one, he has to use these minions to damage them.
I could see why one would not want to go for Louise Skip, because if you don't get it within like 4 tries, it probably doesn't save anything, right? So to get frame perfect pauses, my SRT2 people know the pain. It's kind of hard. In fact, you could say it's frame perfect.
Yeah, that's why you saw Reidzz there change to 30 FPS, because it's way easier to hit a frame perfect pause with less FPS. Now we're seeing here the second mask that we rescued after dealing, or in Reidz's case, not dealing with Louise. We have Akano. He gives you like these spins that just shred through everything. These green missiles that are be shooting at you, you can bounce them back with Akano, and you can get a lot of momentum and height when you combine them with your slide jumps and your slide spin jumps.
Basically, purple Coco go burr. And I guess crash if you're cringe.
Whoa, whoa, you need those frames. So yeah, one thing that we haven't mentioned is we are running on the PC version. And actually, it's not the fastest console to run. There is the PS5 console, or
Cheater console.
some claim that the console exists. I personally don't believe that the console exists. But if you have one, there's this feature called activity cards, where at the end of every level you have this animation where it basically shows you like, oh, you just completed the level, here's the gems that you got. But if you use the activity card feature of the PS5, you completely bypass that animation, and you can do that in every single level except Insanity Peak, the second level that we had in this run. And it's a long animation. If you do it super fast, it can save you 7 to 8 seconds in every single level. So in an 80% run, you're looking at probably 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. So yeah, PS5 confirmed to be the fastest console you can run.
I'm trying to convince myself, so I have the game, I have PS5, but a lot of swag strats were kind of patched out in the PS5 version, so I have the PS4 version still downloaded on it. I'm like, do I want the speed, or do I want swag? And it's a complicated decision.
Actually, recently it was found that you can do every skip that you can do on PS4 on the PS5 as
Really?
well. Just a different version.
Oh wow, Reidzz has a death, but then gets the skip at the end there. I'm surprised he didn't go for it at the time. I'm guessing his Akano spin accidentally broke all the boxes.
Yeah, you can do a little skip there. While if you trigger Akano, while immediately after bouncing off a box, you get super height, and you can use that to go out of bounds there. And it just so happens that the blue gem is just hiding there. And if you exit the level while you still have the mask, which you otherwise wouldn't if you went the quote-unquote intended way, you wouldn't have Akano on the ending animation. But if you saw that, Reidzz was still like spinning with the Akano's animation.
It's very fascinating. I messed around with like console injector and able to just free roam the camera and look out of bounds. And a lot of these levels are so incredibly put together in their background environments, but a lot of assets like that blue gem being hidden in the background, you can kind of find that sort of stuff just because this uses Unreal Engine, and they have to store them somewhere.
Yeah.
Just like the alternate Brio is actually hovering above the main Brio fight, so eventually his like hold form just comes down.
Okay, so
Oh, one of my favorite skips here.
what Reidzz doing here is getting enough height to bypass the trigger for when the game takes Akano off from you. So in this section, you shouldn't have Akano. So now what he's gonna do, he wants to bounce on this checkpoint, go up here, and you see that little box up there? That's actually the ending. And
No safety
yep.
lineup, he just thinks it. Oh, I love this skip so much. It skips the painful auto scroller, which nobody loves an auto scroller in a speedrun.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool skip that I believe was also found on the early stages of the game.
Just stay put while I test this. Hold still.
Now we have our second, I'm gonna say major boss fight, which is Brio.
This is lethal.
I love it. Tears actually implemented the nitro bounce tech that, you know, I'll claim it. Clock and I kind of discovered,
Yeah,
and that
you
way
can,
he didn't lose his mask
Enjoy your trip. This one has extra.
and was able
yeah,
to get
if
that
you're
height.
running this game at a very high FPS, you can sort of bounce on the very edge of a nitro and just don't take damage. I think
We found that it was pretty consistent over 85 FPS. Anything under that, not very consistent.
yeah, you can do it.
Rest in peace,
I
console.
think you can do it also in 60 FPS, but yeah, it's extremely inconsistent. The higher FPS, the more consistent that strat gets.
Actually, I was thinking about it. I want to see if it could be implemented at all more in like 106, but I don't. Running 106 in French. SAP tapes, it's super important, but that's because it's just such a short category.
Yeah. There's like this one level where it's extremely crucial, right?
There's a couple, but mainly like Cortex Vortex, because it's an auto scroller and you get to skip the entirety of the auto scroller just by jumping on 2 nitros.
Hey, both runners not that far apart, actually.
Mm-hmm.
If you consider, of course, Reidzz PB and Tears. Reidzz, I think, PB'd quite recently, getting himself 118,
Oh wow.
if I'm not mistaken.
You know, it definitely shows. He's kind of killing all these skips. Obviously I've been away from C4 a little bit, so I'm not too familiar with all the newer runners.
Yeah, I think he kinda appeared out of nowhere, and he's definitely making a name for himself.
It's been an interesting little period in crash running for sure. Just in NST news, finally Crash 1 any percent has been beaten for world record just this week, and that is not an easy feat.
Yeah. Now, leaving Trouble Brewing, we get to the 5th hub, with the first level being one of the most painful levels in a speedrun way. We have Offbeat. This level's cycles are only based on the music that you are hearing right now. And when you die, the cycles tend to get jank. And not even when you die, the cycles for themselves might be jank. Definitely a level where you can just, even if you don't have any deaths, just lose a lot of time.
I'll be excited to see Reidzz skip the mask. Is he going for the God cycle?
Let's see if he gets it here.
Does he nail it? It's French to me. I'm pretty sure it's impossible. And oh, he was so close.
Yeah, he was super close to get there.
Good
I mean, it's
awareness
not-
to back off instead of trying to hard commit.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but you definitely have to pray to Bob for him to give you good cycles.
Synced up cannon shots are kind of aesthetic. I like that. It always kind of scares me just because, as we were talking about earlier, this game and this category specifically are so very volatile. So to skip something like a mask, which isn't crazy out of the way, but still there, they skip all the checkpoints here. So if you accidentally just don't jump or something like that, you lose such an insane amount of time. And Crash 4 is notoriously bad for huge time sinks.
Yeah, one thing that we actually haven't mentioned so far is that masks don't get carried throughout levels. So if you have 1 or 2 masks, when you get to the end of the level, it's just completely wasted. So we try to find as much places that we can to use those masks as a sort of damage abuse and make cycles a little bit easier.
I could definitely see why they didn't. I think the game's design doesn't really say you should have triple mask in any section, like from a previous level. But there is something about just, I mean, C2, for example, is extremely optimized because of its triple mask allocation. But this is more like Crash 1, where it's a linear progression anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, I'm thinking right now, I'm actually only thinking of one level that you get triple mask, at least in your any percent routes.
Yeah,
and
and it
it's
doesn't even
super
really
useful.
help
Yeah,
that much considerably.
let's see if Reidzz. Oh,
And the tolerable secondary character, the Dingus Dongus, that's awesome.
Reidzz
Oh
getting
what a
the
madman.
bastard skip. So
He has not missed anything yet. He is just gaming.
for those of you that don't know, there's supposed to be a little cutscene where the enemies throughout this level shoot Dingo's diner, and Dingo calls them bastards. But you can just skip that cutscene, and Dingo's diner is apparently saved.
Most importantly, yeah, he saved the diner. Oh!
And then wait a second, there's another skip being performed
Oh
here.
my god.
This level is completely broken of skips.
Nice.
Alright, so I haven't seen
There
this
you
yet,
go.
so this is actually kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah. If you look at the background and reads the screen, the level was deloaded. The platforms are still there. They're just rendered invisible. So he chose to take a death after spinning the invisible checkpoint box to just respawn the platforms. Oh, wait. There is another skip.
It wasn't even close before, but definitely Dingo's the best secondary character. Like, no contest. This is awesome.
Ooh, taking a death there. The end part of Blimey Skip, which is the same as Bastard Skip, just when Dingo says Blimey. The late part of Blimey Skip, it's a little bit confusing because the camera gets stuck and you just see Dingo down there. So it's very tricky to navigate. Reidzz choosing not to go for it again. And Tears getting the roof skip. Choosing to go for the level while it's deloaded.
Oh,
Let's see if
God.
he gets it.
How do you like them wampus?
So it's painful because although you cannot see them, everything is still there to kill you. but it looks like
Tears
he's
actually
practicing 'cause he
doing.
nails it.
Yeah, he has now spinned the checkpoint, so he should be fine.
It kind of makes me wonder if he's going to opt to go for some more risky strats to try and make up on time.
Yeah, Tears has definitely been practicing on some of the skips, and the skip that he just did here out of all the three that you saw Reidzz do, definitely the easiest out of the three. And yeah, one of the reasons that this level is just completely broken is that the vacuum that Dingo uses is extremely useful to give you extra height, and because Dingo is a little bit larger than the other characters, his hitbox is incredibly large compared to Crash, Coco, and Tawna.
Yeah, that dumpy's not just for attention, it's a functional butt.
Run it by you. The second level where we actually see the jetboard. I don't think we see the jetboard outside of after this level. So, yeah, if you like the jetboard, I'm sorry, this is the last place we're gonna see it.
But, as I mentioned earlier, nobody likes auto-scrollers in the speedrun. So, what do we got coming up, Cookie?
We got yet another skip. Normally you'd use the boat to just... You just stand on the boat and just wait for this insanely large auto-scroller. You can't speed it up at all. But you can go out of bounds by slide jumping onto that wall that you saw there, Reidzz do, and you can just go a little bit to the back of the level and chain slide spins until you get here. And there you see Coco a little bit in the air, Reidzz going for the bottom left corner so the camera fixes itself. Now it's very important that you don't die at all in this level, or in this part, or else you actually have to repeat the skip, because you just skip the checkpoints. Reidzz doesn't have a mask, so he needs to be a little bit careful here. Yeah, he doesn't want to boost in that one, or else he would just be thrown to the TNTs. And that's a skip. Tears also going for it. Let's see. This skip is not that much difficult. It's only difficult in the sense that you can't die after you perform the skip and get to the last jetboard section. And for that, we pick up a mask in the way, because after you get to the jetboard section, there's actually invisible nitros that fall in the water. But if you're a little bit careful, you can actually see where they fall, because the nitros make the water splash, like you saw right there in Tears' screen. And now in Reidzz, we have our next mask.
He's going down to 30 FPS, yes! Oh, Reidzz is a man of the people. Instant follow for me.
Yeah, this mask allows you to slow down time. However, if you use both buttons to activate the mask, which in a standard way is just R2 and triangle, but you can map it to other buttons, of course. It actually pushes you forward in time, and we found out that it's related to the amount of FPS you're running. So Reidzz choosing to switch to 30 FPS to go to warp a little bit more, and that is mainly the only reason why submissions are actually capped with a minimum of 30 FPS, exactly because of this trick.
Imagine playing the game with less than 30 FPS, to be honest. That's like a PowerPoint.
Yeah, Crody. I remember Crody actually posting a clip on Discord of him playing this level at 5 FPS. It is not pretty.
That's about the most Crody thing possible.
Oh, actually, I want to say that in this cutscene that Tears is actually on, you could actually skip this cutscene in the demo version of the game by going to the little tower that you were on that's on the left and making I think it was just a regular slide jump and going above the trigger for the cutscene, but after. I think it was probably after the devs react, they chose to patch out that skip. Reidzz taking another death, and Stay Frosty. Stay Frosty's beginning is a little bit tricky because the first checkpoint is actually not for a while. Reidzz switching to 30 FPS because we are once again controlling Kapunawa.
The fact that you're faster than the camera for this Kapunawa section makes it incredibly risky. You just kind of have to get the right muscle memory.
Yeah, actually, you don't want to skip. You just don't want to spam skip here because you can skip the trigger for when the doors begin to function. So that door was just closed.
Man, at what point are we going to have a skip for every level? It's pretty darn close already.
I remember seeing in the Crash's Discord that if I'm not mistaken, only 5 levels don't. It's not that they don't have skips, but don't have out of bounds.
Oh, well,
I think it was only 5.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, you can see how this game, using the masked abilities, this game is super broken. Tears, unfortunately, taking another death there as well. And choosing to go back to unlimited FPS.
I am loving seeing some of the awareness from Reidzz. Even though some things don't go perfect, he's got the quick reaction time to kind of fix it and adjust and realize, hey, if I don't do this, I'm gonna die.
Yeah,
Which,
Reidzz is definitely
in a race setting is very important.
Yeah, Reidzz is definitely a super experienced player, and he's only improving by the day.
So, what does make this format very interesting? So we do see Reidzz already with a almost 2-minute lead. So we are doing a 2v2. So we do have CrispyTacoz, who is the, highest seed for this race today, and he's on Tears' team. So again, it will kind of come down to whoever performs better in the second race as well. But there's still lots of C4 action to happen, so anything could go wrong. Especially thanks, Crody.
Yeah, at this point, it's still definitely anyone's game. Reidzz not getting a little skip there. You can actually... That skip is, in my opinion, extremely difficult. I never got that. You can bounce on that box and slow down time with Kapunawa just at the right moment for the ice platforms to come down, and then you can just go to the platforms above you.
Oh, how I missed this!
And now, Gaffy, you want to You want to talk about this creature?
I don't know. All I see is a butchered animal on my screen. Cosmetic boost.
We are now the only instance we're gonna see Polar returning from Crash 2. Similar to Crash 2, he has this boost that after you boost, he walks for a little bit and you can't boost immediately, has this little cooldown. And
Can you tell?
correct me if I'm wrong, but every boost that you do saves up about 1.1 seconds. So you want to be boosting as much as possible in this section.
I wasn't aware of that. I thought the boost was just kind of not that good.
Yeah. The boost
That's pretty
saves a
significant.
ton of
Huh.
time. Yeah.
All right, never mind. Polar's back, baby. Best animal. We love him.
I mean, it ain't no hog, you know.
Yeah, with all of his speed tech, super fascinating hog.
Now, fourth time's the charm.
I've made
The Cortex fight. There's a little bit of RNG in this boss fight. I think the only RNG portion of this run. Let's see what Reidzz does here. So you have to be lucky enough for the Punchbot, or when it spawns, to spawn super close. Oh, let's see. He didn't get it there. So
Now
basically,
this is oh, go ahead.
so basically, if he spawns in that second square from the left or from the right, you have a chance to spin the Punchbot and it somehow goes under Cortex, so it doesn't deal like a blast, but it still deals damage. And if that happens, you can death abuse, and another Punchbot will actually spawn. Because I think the game is just like, oh, the Punchbot went under Cortex, so it didn't hit. Hey, here's another one. And you can use that Punchbot that spawned to just basically skip a phase.
all right. Have it your way. The anti-Masu
Reidzz unfortunately taking a death in that second phase. He still has a chance to go for the Punchbot Skip. Yeah. A little bit sketchy there.
Well, if you won't play fair, then neither will I. Oops. Did I do that? Kill the Bandicoot, crush the Bandicoot.
This is usually the most difficult fight that casual players might encounter while they're playing through the game. But it turns out, for example, if you look at tier screen, for the third phase, which I'd say it's the most difficult one, you can just stay in the middle and jump over the green lasers, and like that, it poses no threat whatsoever.
All right, let's see if he gets Brazil take two. Oh, not even going for Brazil take two. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's
For those
just dumb,
of
but
you
can
that
be
are
stuck in your
asking,
crouch.
yeah, for those of you that are asking, at the end, this is a 2v2, so the times for both runners are gonna be combined, and the winner is just who has the best time amongst the
Yeah.
combined time.
Definitely using in-game time with load remover though. It's nice to see that's close RTA, but definitely Reidzz has
Yeah.
a bit over a minute of a lead right now.
Tears has a little bit of faster loads, so making this race super exciting in terms of RTA. But yeah, Tears, I don't know how Tears is compared to his current PB, but he's definitely on a good pace.
From what production has told me, that he was a minute 20 ahead in 4 times the charm. As you said,
That
he's
is
more of an
pretty good.
ACG runner, right? So
Yeah.
he's got a lot of game experience, but doesn't necessarily, or hasn't necessarily pushed any percent to what it could be for him.
Yeah, he doesn't
I think
have a
adds
lot
up
of.
to be tremendous.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of experience in any percent. Only having a few runs, not that much of a grind like all the other 3 runners do. But yeah, he definitely has a huge possibility of PBing in this race.
Thinking of all the possibilities now, just because this game is so incredibly broken, I wonder if there's like a trigger skip for Kapunawa in this level. Kind of like how, whatever the one dragon level has.
Yeah.
Off balance, there we go.
I think there is a trigger. I think there's triggers for every single mask. But yeah, I don't think in Blast of the Past it can't be reached because I don't think you have any form to get that much height to skip the trigger. Now Reidzz getting out of Blast of the Past, we're gonna see our 4th and final character that we can control. Entering Fossil Fuel, we're gonna be playing as Cortex?
Ew?
Let's see how these
Well, but wait, we just fought Cortex. Why are we playing as
Oh
him?
yeah, we beat the game, GG.
It turns out, Cortex switched to being a bad guy to being a good guy. And now said to Crash that Entropy is the mean guy, so we're now on the way to beating Entropy, the last boss of this game. Reidzz is gonna break that checkpoint and intentionally damage abuse to get better cycles here, because he wants to shoot that metal crate, go back, and then doing this little bit skip. But yeah, when we were talking about Tom being extremely functional, Cortex is, it is.
He's really the showcase of NA aim.
Yeah, sometimes it's actually pretty consistent. Who reads escaping death right there? That was pretty close.
Wow.
It's actually pretty consistent, saying like if you're just walking to the right, like just tilting your analog slightly to the right, and if you press the shoot button with Cortex, it actually shoots into like the background. Oh no, wait, never mind. It shoots to the camera, but if you're walking to the left, it shoots to the background. And sometimes you want to just shoot forward, and it shoots forward and a little bit left. Cortex is a fascinating character.
I'm still on the team that I think Tana's the worst character, but I could see how people don't like Cortex.
Yeah, even if you get a deathless fossil fueled, you can still lose a lot of time. I mean, not a deathless fossil fueled because you death abuse. But if you don't die at all in the rest of the stage, you can lose a lot of time. Just because Cortex just doesn't want to function.
Ooh.
Reads those body slams.
And just trying to go extra fast, trying to buffer that slide at about the perfect time.
Yeah. Sometimes you get this slide, and even if you press spin or jump, you get nothing at all. We like to, Rico called it a bobslide, where it just slides and no, you don't get any other input after the slide. It's magic. Magical bobslide.
Something that I guess we didn't really talk about, we're going to see a lot in this level, just the way the slide spin functions in this game, and more specifically the slide itself. And Rico kind of was the first to implement this in the demo, but you can go over a majority of the holes if you kind of sub-jump your slide, so you're already like, what's it called, coyote falling, or coyote jumping?
Yeah.
Over the texture, and it gives you that like lenient frames to input a slide.
Yeah, you can slide spin across a variety of gaps in this game. And that's because when you slide, you just have like horizontal momentum and you start to fall immediately as you spin. So there's some holes where if they're a little bit bigger than usual, you want to extend your slide a little bit and then spin.
It can really be a test of patience a lot of times, and if you're newer, you'll try and slide way too early and you'll wind up dying. But if you're patient and you get used to it, it can save you a bunch of time.
And yeah, and talking about what you were talking before about the coyote time, if you guys don't know, it's this little, like, I don't even know what to call it. If you notice, you go, like, I don't even know how to explain this.
Just explain what coyote time is.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, Looney Tunes with the coyote walks over the ledge and then he stares down, but he's hanging over the ledge for a second before he realizes he's falling. It's that you're in the air and not falling for that slight second.
Yeah, you just casually walk over the edge and somehow you can still slide and not get a body slam.
Which, thank goodness. I mean, if this was a very analog input game, it would be even more difficult and just insane. So modern games have put in that slight buffer, which is fantastic. Ooh.
Out for launch. Now we have finally rescued the last Quantum Master we're gonna use. Ika is able to switch gravity. And you can, switching gravity in this game just opens space for a lot of skips. It's super busted. So what you saw...
the first of the Ika equalizers for sure.
Yeah. What you saw Reidzz do there, he went to grab Ika and then slided just under the trigger, because if you go back normally, you lose Ika. But if you slide, you can just go under the trigger where you lose the mask and just go above the level.
Now, why did Tears do the pass and play? Is it just faster if he misses it?
I don't know a lot about pass and play. I think it's one of the reasons is that you can actually see where Coco is in Tears' screen.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, what you saw there in Reidz's screen is just a casual platform right there placed, meaning that Out for Lunch skip actually is intended by the developers.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they just placed the camera fixing itself for Tears, definitely not good. Oh. Yeah,
this
Tears
skip is always insane to me just because there's like no real visual cues. I mean, you can find your own, like, yeah, this speck of dust is where I'm gonna invert gravity back, but like, comparatively, it's not very lenient.
Yeah, and what I was talking about in the beginning of this race, that there's only a small set of differences between Crash and Coco. This is actually one of the differences, because we're just floating across space. You want to switch gravity at a specific time, and we have like this little cue that you can do with Crash, but with Coco the cue is different, so you have to learn two different cues if you're planning on running with Crash or Coco. Let's see if Tears gets the Out for Launch skip.
And this is a decently long level, so this skip, although kind of hell, Very worth it.
Hey, where'd my cart go?
Okay, let's see if Tears falls in the right place.
I swear I left my cart parked right there.
You have to look down and look for that purple mist. He's gonna do a little double jump to get a little bit of distance. He landed and managed to load the rest of the level. So from here, it shouldn't be that much difficult. So let's see if he gets the rest.
My sixth cart stolen this year. My words cannot compare.
And there you go, Tears got it. Second try.
Very nice.
Really cool. You want to turn off autoplay, because if you go to the end with autoplay, it just switches back to Crash. So thank God he remembered to turn off. One thing that both players didn't do is that thing you saw at the end of Dragonon where Akano was still activated in the ending animation. Because you have Ika Ika where you're not supposed to, you can switch gravity while passing through the last box, and Coco will do the ending animation upside down.
Attention crew, asteroid field ahead. Buckle your seatbelt. We're hit.
Oh, what the heck?
I was looking at Tears' screen. Did Reidzz die somewhere? That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Reidzz is having a lot of unfortunate body slams and deaths in his run that you would otherwise you wouldn't really expect for Reidzz to have.
I think it's just something that naturally comes with being in a resetless environment like this.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he's also just nailing a lot of things, so he's giving himself and his team that advantage. But to also make it interesting for everyone watching, he's just giving a little bit of a taste. He's still gonna win.
Yeah,
if he tries.
Reidzz is definitely not weird to the concept of a resetless, because he usually does resetless in his runs. Just either grinding for PBs, for golds, or your standard practice. Because even if he has a run that is plus 6 minutes away from his PB, he will still finish that run. But he is a little bit inexperienced, I think, in marathons and races in general.
Some people are just naturally decent at it. Jamie comes to mind when I think of very cool and composed in a race or a marathon setting, whereas I feel like I crumble. There's just something about the want to impress others or do well for others versus just impressing myself that it hits different.
Yeah, I think for me, at least, I only get nervous in the first couple of levels, 2 or 3 levels, and then oh yeah, I'm just doing a casual no resetless. So now we have Tim the Cat. I don't know where you guys heard
We love Tim the Cat.
Yeah, Tim the Cat. Probably, I don't know. I don't really like Tim the Cat. Tim the Cat's ruined a lot of my PBs. I don't particularly am fond of Tim the Cat.
At launch, a few of us called him Louie, but it didn't really catch on.
Yeah. If you find someone that says that that's not a cat, that's a schnurgle, that person is just lying.
Yeah, logic or production. If we can get a pet the Schnurgle BTTV emote added, that'd be great.
No,
TY.
do not add pet the schnurgle, please. No.
Pet the Schnurgle.
No.
Schnurgly. My man. Now this is something that doesn't really help too much. Tears is performing it now, but if you invert gravity as you're doing like a slide jump, you get just a massive speed boost. And I always thought that was super cool. There's a lot of mask interactions in this game that I feel like couldn't have been intentional, but are just so fascinating for the run.
Yeah, the goo that you see in this section behaves sort of similarly to ice. And when you're getting like that huge ice physics, if you switch gravity, you keep that momentum that you carry. Reidzz now going to fight Entropy. This is a probably the most boring, but most useful like part of the run, because if you were in the PB section, in the PB pace, in this section, it's just 1 minute and 10, if I'm not mistaken, to like calm down your nerves. Just go to the bathroom.
Now, a man of the people, we do see he's collecting all the fruit.
Oompa.
Is it all Wumpa though? It looks like
nut.
grapes, and I don't know if it. Whatever.
So
He's collecting it all.
the game introduced an inverted mode, and instead of Wumpa, you have these sort of grapes that they called Bumpa.
It's not quite the same with Coco, and I'll give it that's one of her bigger faults in this game. Besides everything else, she's perfect.
Okay, now that he has collected all the Bumpa, let's see. Yeah.
Yeah!
Yeah!
In my universe, bandicoots are considered pests.
If you're wondering why that says yeah, it's because if you played as Crash, it's the O meme. So they have
Whoa.
to, yeah, the developers had to find something for Coco. They just put it yeah.
Yes, so elegant, spiders.
Wow. That was perfect.
Thank you.
Crash is commentating in this race. What?
Found its way home.
Let's put them down. Activate the security lasers.
Let's see if Tears also hits the funny.
Foiled by a flea bag. Time to die.
Or will Tears just taking? Yeah, Tears is choosing to take a break. It's probably super ahead on PB pace. He's been having
This is my bathroom stretch break when I was running this game.
a couple of deaths, but for Tears PB, it's super good.
I'll squash this bug.
Reidzz almost done with the final boss. Shame he only has 2 hit points.
You're being very misleading with your phrasing there. You're not wrong.
And there you go. GG's.
GG, we saved the multiverse.
Wait, Reidzz is continue to running?
It's like lore or something.
Yeah, I sorry guys, I forgot. Now we're going back to the island where it all started, so we can take a little bit of a break. So now we're just returning to NSB, my favorite place.
This is actually, so this is one of the first levels that kind of incorporates the multi-masking. I think it's very cool. This second to like Cortex Castle,
It
where
does
you just
incorporate
gonna have to
all the
fluid
four
through.
masks, but we're going to be using 2. Because we are doing the food run skip.
Oh, yeah.
Similarly to Out for Launch. You just go in the air, and then at the right moment, you just switch gravity back. Now you're going to see that the level is going to start to deload. The screen is going to be turning into black, and you want to turn gravity a little bit after your entire screen is black. And now while you're falling back to the level, you want to use your right analog to look down to check your surroundings and see if you're on the right place. You're gonna align yourself with this oddly shaped cloud.
What's it look like, chat? I think a cowboy hat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely a cowboy hat.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna align yourself with the right side of that building, and you just pray for the level to load, and that's it.
Let's see.
I don't think Tears is going for this skip, because he hasn't been practicing this skip that much, but we do get to see another skip.
Yeah, those big out of bounds like Out for Launch and this level are kind of miserable. You can get consistent, but holy cow.
See if these tall poppies know how to smoke a steak.
And hey, we'll actually get to showcase some of this level. Crazy.
Now, Reidzz on the actual longest level on an 80% run, Rush Hour, consisting of Dingo and Tawna.
By far, actually, I'll say in my experience, one of my least favorite levels. It's just long, kind of not that interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Like, Tawna's section is kind of an auto-scroller, and Dingo's section, you can die pretty easily, and there's only like, what, 2 checkpoints you can break? So if you, the first checkpoint, if you die for the first checkpoint, you can lose like 1 minute if you die super late into the level.
It was one of my first times running this game. That platform that like loads you into the next section, there's an invisible wall right in front of it. And Dingo's jump, as you guys have seen, let you go pretty far. So you can go from like the falling platform onto the elevator, but if you try and jump straight to the elevator, invisible wall just bonks you, and because there's no checkpoint, you have to go wait all the way back to the beginning. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, Tears actually landing the alternate or the first skip that we found for Food Run. That was completely overwritten when we found the Ika skip.
I believe someone fairly early on in the game's history actually had shown that you could just go out of bounds for a food run, but trying to get a good setup for it is definitely what's going to be more challenging.
Reidzz dying at the very end of the Dingo section. Super unfortunate. But yeah, as you were saying, if I'm not mistaken, was I actually don't remember who it was.
The name's not important.
Yeah. Found a way to use the Ika to go out of bounds, but didn't find the skip, which was later found by...
Wonder what the local delicacy is here.
I also forgot.
Spicy and fried.
And yeah, there's actually one thing I'd like to mention is this whole Tawna section is pretty long, probably like up to 2 minutes, 2 minutes and a half probably, or even more. And there's actually been plans on skipping this entire section because at the very end of the Dingo section, the crate that triggers the ending animation is there, but currently we haven't found a way to reach it up there, even though we're making a lot of progresses to finding what can potentially be the biggest skip in this game.
Oh, that would be so wonderful.
Yeah, you can see that the Tana section is just completely filled with rail sections. It's just this big auto-scroller. And yeah, as Gaffy said, this level is kind of pretty boring.
You know, it'd be a really cool like challenge mode if they just slowed everything down and like made it under the guise of being underwater.
Oh no.
It'd be sick if it took like 10 minutes to beat this level. It'd be so cool. You know, it's kind of funny. I remember when they were advertising this game, like the Rails section, they're like, it's going to be so cool. People love Rails. People played it in Ratchet and Clank. It's huge. And I'm pretty sure nobody likes Rails because they're just not that entertaining.
Ooh,
And
Tears
they miss
taking
the
an
plot completely.
unfortunate death. He
Ooh.
chose to skip the checkpoints, but he died to the bus. That's a pretty big time loss.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't interfere with his PB.
Spicy fried mystery food.
And Reidzz is spicy and fried. Finishing up that long level.
Yeah, Tears now choosing to go for this checkpoint.
I would probably do the same.
Yeah, there's just a certain point where you reach in the middle of a reset list, like, oh, I died to that, I'm probably not doing that again because I don't want to suffer the same time loss, so I'm gonna choose to go safe if I fail it once. Great Escape, fortunately the last level that you control Cortex. Because after this we're gonna take a little bit of a break.
Oh, wait,
Right?
I thought we beat Cortex Cookie.
Wait, Cortex? No, he's a good guy.
Oh yeah, of course. Me too.
Who reads with that weird death, not costing that much because it was right after he broke the checkpoint.
Oh no! Oh.
Cortex and his big head.
Wow,
Ooh, that was
a tight
super
cycle.
close.
No mask for the. What are these luggage carts?
I would assume they are, yeah.
Hotel Neo, pretty fun. Do a little dash dance on them. Oh, okay. Cortex got schmoes. He can't shoot, but you know, got schmoes.
Cat, get down. Cortex is shooting. Get down or bring out your own guns.
Don't worry, he can't aim.
He can aim. And now, reaching to this cutscene that we choose to skip because, you know, we want speed. Cortex just realized, hey, I'm here with these guys, all the 4 masks are here. Why don't I take the Kapunawa and go to the past to defeat Crash while he's still being created? So unfortunately, we still have another hub to go through. Probably, this is the end hub, has probably the 3 most difficult levels, I'd say. But these 3 levels, I would say, are perfect to end a run like this, because you have nitro processing that tests your ability with skips. You have toxic tunnels that tests your ability with just platforming. You don't get a single mask. And then you have Cortex Castle that just throws every single mask at you. And then just tests your ability with the quantum masks. So
at a top level, I can see how nitro processing is probably one of the worst things ever.
Yeah.
We'll see if Reidzz gets it, but he's trying to find a very tight window in which you can... Oh wow, and he nails it.
Nails it first try, the Karate skip. Again, the Ika reversing gravity is pretty busted.
It's a tiny lack of hitboxes that you also have to jump at a specific time. It's so insanely tight, and it's just pain. 100% pain.
I think the hitbox was found to be like sort of L-shaped. So you have to jump at a very precise time to make it. Reidzz going for this alternate second nitro processing skip. I think so far he's the only one that does it. Saves a little bit of time.
Oh my.
Oh, he's not breaking the checkpoints.
Yeah.
And he doesn't die. Okay, he should be good for now. Tears is having a little bit of trouble with crate escape.
There is a checkpoint after the... Oh, he goes for Kapunawa.
Yeah, if you're gonna use 30 FPS Kapunawa, taking Kapunawa here is definitely faster.
I just figured with menuing and stuff, it seems like very marginal time difference, but you know what? He's zooming, so maybe I'm wrong. Plus, his menuing is actually insane to go back to unlimited. I'm curious if he does get a gold, because yeah, getting that first try is nutty. Oh, and thank you, Tara,
apparently
for the
Reidzz
beautiful
got the gold.
drawing. Let's go, Reidzz.
Okay, Tears making his way out of crate escape and entering nitro processing. I believe he's also going for roadie skip. But you know, Crody skip can be super painful, so let's just pray that he gets it probably not longer than 3-4 tries. Even if you die 2-3 times, I think, probably not 3 times, but I think if you still die 2 times, it still saves time.
Yeah, for sure. You're skipping a large portion of the game.
Yeah.
For the level, I guess.
So yeah, you can see how I mentioned that toxic tunnels is just pure platforming. You get no mask. You want to skip the cycles that Reidzz skipped a little bit. Like, it's not that much difficult, but it can be a little bit tricky. Making use of the coyote time. Tears getting Crody skip. First try. Breaking the checkpoint and then death abusing for the rest of the level to load.
Oh. this is definitely one of those things that if you're on a high or on a good pace, being nervous here or anything can just set off your timing just ever so slightly, and it's the bane of many runners.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what just happened to Tears. Tears took an unfortunate death, because I don't think he has ever hit Crody Skip first try, so he might have been a little bit excited that he got it. And yeah.
The blood left his brain and went down to his, yeah. He's a little excited.
Tears going for this alternate skip. In nitro processing, they are both around the same difficulty. Ooh, unfortunate. Tears died. Could not find the hole that had the checkpoint. Let's see if it goes for it again.
Obviously, the difficulty with this here is that you're looking for platforms that haven't loaded in visually, so it's
Yeah.
Oh, and he's not going up for the second attempt, which I can respect.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to lose it another time.
And he's on PB, or at least he was on PB pace. I can imagine he probably wants to at least preserve some of that.
Yeah.
And not throw for his team, because each time you fail it, right, you're losing a solid chunk of time.
Definitely. Again, you're
I'm
not supposed to
Even
have.
through this section, Reidzz is going for the Kapunawa attack at 30 FPS.
Yeah.
I don't care
He's
if it doesn't
just
even save that much. It's
zooming.
cool as hell.
Get up to here with your game, you lout! Lout? Why, I never! What is it? Am I seeing double? Petrio, quickly! Revoke this fraud!
And yeah, Tears, as I mentioned before, if you're not gonna do 30 FPS Kapunawa, it's definitely a little bit easier to go through this section with Ika Ika.
Yeah, so that last little section for Reidzz, if you do hold your jump while you trigger Akano, you do get extra height, which is very useful in some situations. But on that last section specifically, if you do that, you'll hit the lasers every time, which is
Unfortunately,
unfortunate.
Reidzz lost his mask, so he's not gonna be able to damage abuse.
It's not the hugest thing, but it does make things a little quicker and a little nicer.
Anyone! We have an evil doppelganger situation! I'm not a doppelganger! No, forget it!
But yeah, in this final section of Cortex Castle, the game just throws you every single mask in existence.
It feels so fluid. I wish there were more levels like this, to be honest.
Let's see if Reidzz gets this little backup that you can do if you don't have the mask.
Nice.
There you go, nice and clean.
Still faster than waiting on the platform. As you could see, the platform still wasn't there. Excellent showing.
And now we fight Cortex for the second and last time. Oh, that was a little bit funky menuing. But now Cortex has in possession all the masks, and he's going to use those against you.
Man, this it kind of reminds me of another Crash 4.
Wait, another Crash 4 that also has 4 masks?
Maybe you've heard of it. It's the Wrath of Cortex, I think.
Oh yeah, that one for the GameCube, right?
For the GameCube, yeah.
For the GameCube.
With the better 106.
Time out! Time out!
Okay, so now Cortex used Lani Loli against Reidzz. He's now gonna shoot some lasers and proceed to use Ika Ika. The masks are, you can see the masks are in the background, and it's gonna go in order from left to right.
And if you're not colorblind, then red, you jumpy, and blue, you ducky. But what if you flip? Oh man.
What if you flip the gravity?
You just turn your monitor upside down.
You just get confused and disoriented?
Stop that! Assistant! Help!
And coming up now, it wouldn't be a proper final boss with a little bit of a trick. Reidzz is gonna go to this left platform. He's gonna body slam on the first. Now I actually forgot the name. The little bounce pads. And he's gonna extend his slide jump spin to make it all the way across. And there we go.
I gotta say, I don't know if I'm in a race setting, do you go for that?
Shenanigans!
I would definitely go for it because the more times that you do it, it becomes increasingly easy. It's not that hard as
Yeah, I guess
people
it's just
that don't
you're
do
off
that
a
jump.
little bit.
Yeah, like if you never did that jump, or if you have not that much experience, it can look tricky. And there you go, Reidzz with a 120
Yep,
to 41.
Very nice. I think getting
Gonna have-
anything under a 130 in this kind of environment is going to be super nice, or is
Yeah.
super good for your team.
We're now gonna have Solarium also going, already set.
Wow, no time delay, going right into it. For now, I'm going to kind of shift focus over to watching Tears finish up his run. He's getting towards the later half of Cortex Castle now.
Yeah, Tears definitely on PB pace. He can hit probably a 129, a high 129.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he still can, depending on how Cortex goes.
So how long is Cortex? It's like 2.5.
The gold, or the fastest gold for Cortex is like a 231, 232. So let's see. If Tears doesn't miss the jump, that I'm also thinking he's going for it, he should have a PB.
Is for RTA purposes, is Solarium, and I guess I'm asking production more than anything, is he waiting on Tears to finish and Crispy to be set up, or
Nah,
are we just he's sending it.
Solarium
Just
is
kidding,
just
as I say.
going.
Buffering. So, if you are just joining in, yes, Reidzz won the first race, but it's a combined time. This is a team effort. So we're going to take his time and Solarium's time and compare them to Tears and Crispy's.
Oh, we're having some live split difficulties in Solarium's part. Oh, wait. Oh. The live split is just... The live split seems to be...
I think he might... Oh, what the heck? It jumped from 1 to 11 for me.
Yeah.
He's got that Kapuna
It's a
Wall
little bit
live split.
funky. But yeah, if Tears doesn't miss this jump, he can get himself a little PB. From what I've been told, his PB is a 130-30. If he doesn't miss the jump, he can get himself a very high 129.
Oh, that's a... I don't know. That's an aesthetic PB, though.
Okay, so now we're all set. We have Solarium going.
Yeah, welcome into the chat, Reidzz. Congrats to you. You are a man of the people, and look forward to seeing you push the category even more.
Very good run, Reidzz. time for the big boy jump. Let's pray that Tears gets it.
Oh
Tears
no!
barely missing it. He's gonna go for it again.
How do you know?
Not gonna go. Not gonna be 129, but he can still nab himself a small PB. Gets it the second try. If he doesn't die on this last phase, should be a 130, but still a PB.
For the fans, and harder splits to run against. Let's go.
There you go. That should be a PB
And
for Tears.
GG's to Tears.
19-second PB. 130.11.
Not like this.
GG's, not like this. Now we should have Crispy all set to go.
I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little biased in this one. Crispy is one of the, like, early runners, and he's just been so tenacious going after this. So I'm excited to see him do this. Anytime he PBs, it's like, you love to see the hard work pay off in a speed run, and he's probably grinded more than anyone I know.
Yeah, Crispy has been going on the mad grind. He PB'd recently, even if it was only by 0.4 seconds. But hey, at the very high level where Crispy is at, we take what we can get, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And Crispy definitely one of the contenders for that sweet world record place.
Oh, for
I know-
sure.
And definitely a very strong contender for 115. 115 being an excellent time for what like just a few months ago a 118 was incredible, and now we're in the realms of a 115.
So, that one guy, I can't remember his name, but 114 with Skip, that's a reality. He's way ahead of us the whole time.
114 with Skip. He knew it. We just didn't believe it.
Man's living in 2023. We're out here, 2021.
Yeah, last time that I checked Crispy's sum of best, he was at a 114.14. A
Dang.
very low 114.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it just gets to show how broken this game gets with all the skips that it's found. And definitely a very, I want to say, inconsistent game to like perform every single skip flawlessly.
Even just making every cycle consistently. Like, early on, it's these rope cycles, and there's so much that you can just bleed, and then as the run gets worse and worse on its difficult skips, you just get gouged. So I will say this one is probably in Solarium's court to just perform well, because Crispy is very consistent. He does have that slight lead right now, which about 8 minutes.
Solarium
we'll see how it
taking a
goes.
fortunate death.
I'm gonna pass the reins off to you for just a minute. I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. And yeah, as I was saying before, like at a high level that Crispy is at, you want to hit every single skip first try. You want to get every single god cycle, or at least a little bit slower. because if you miss that God Cycle or you miss that skip, you're looking at upwards of 5 seconds time loss for the God Cycle that he didn't make, or even like 15, 20, or even 50 seconds, depending on the skip that you failed. So definitely crash for any percent, a very nerve-wracking run to do when you're on a very good PB pace. Looks like Solarium still is a little dying a little bit. Still probably the nerves. I think it's his first marathon that he's on, so definitely understandable. Also, early game, ooh, yeah, you definitely want that checkpoint. You don't want to repeat that whole rail section. Ooh. Oh, that is super unfortunate for Solarium. Not a death that costs a lot, but you definitely don't want to see deaths like that. Let's see now with Hit the Road Skip. Pretty confident that both Crispy and Solarium will nail Hit the Road Skip without a single issue. They are very familiar with this skip, being a skip that, again, saves a lot of time. Crispy over here in real grind, I don't think he has taken a death so far. I've been looking a little bit at Solarium's. Let's see if he hits this one. Oh, that is a very low bounce that he got. He's gonna have to restart the level. It just goes to show how much Hit the Road Skip saves, because it's faster to restart the level and try it again to just repeat the whole level, or to do the entirety of the section that you skip with Hit the Road. I think that Solarium wasn't expecting that he would make it up there with his first jump. There you go. Camera is a little bit finicky, but no problem. Solarium made it over the invisible wall. Ah, damn, Bob loves to play some invisible walls. And yeah, thank God he at least got it second try. You do not want to fail that 2 times in a race setting. There you go. Now it's Crispy's time to hit the road.
All right, I am back. I see Solarium is in the ball. I take it HTR didn't go.
Yeah, he failed Hit the Road Skip once and had to restart.
Oh, he restarted.
Fortunately. Yeah, it's definitely faster to restart than to continue. I mean, if you do hit it the second time, of course.
Prepare for a beating, Bandicoot. You're ruining my solo.
One thing that I don't think I've mentioned, you want to take this mask to hit the road, because you actually damage abuse through that electric fence. You can make it without damaging, but it's definitely a little bit tight. And Crispy actually not needing the backup, making it over the wall with your standard slide jump.
Let's go.
That was the Skip's version that I was talking about when it was Tears versus Reidzz. Definitely way more tight and way more difficult to do, but it saves that trouble of taking the backup.
We'll do this the hard way.
So far, Crispy's run has been going flawlessly. No deaths, hit the road skip, beautiful. Solarium hitting stage dive skip, not a hard skip at all, probably the easiest stuff, the easiest skip you can do, even probably a casual player might encounter it.
He didn't get that first, or didn't go even for that first phase thing that we saw Reidzz do. Is that a fairly newer?
That is not
addition?
that is not new per se. It has been found a while ago. I think when it was found, people didn't want to go for it because it seemed to be a little bit inconsistent. But I actually think only Reidzz goes for it, like how Reidzz goes for the alternate nitro processing skip.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the alternate engine skip. I would estimate it saves 2 to 3 seconds because you don't have to spin the 3 minions back to engine.
Right.
But yeah, definitely not new. It's just people that do it finding a little bit inconsistent, and because we're on a race setting, if you know how to do it, you might want to go for it. Like Reidzz did it with the likes of engine skip and bastard skip, like we saw in home cooking. Yeah, if you know it, you might give it a go to showcase for the people that might not know it exists. But yeah, if you don't, then just stick to what you're more comfortable with. Crispy actually failing the last engine skip.
Want to keep it interesting. I respect it.
Having to resort to spinning the minions back.
Luckily, it was on the last one, which is definitely shorter than like second or third phase, because you also have to wait. I don't know if it's his loads or what, but Crispy is catching up, even though starting quite a bit after Solarium, which makes RTA a much more interesting viewing experience for sure.
11 minutes in, Crispy's case, I would say they're about the same RTA-wise. Because I think Solarium was around 3 minutes ahead when Crispy started. Let's see if Solarium gets the checkpoints. Beautiful.
Very nice.
Ooh, but failing that little skip. You can bounce on the top of the 2 stacks of boxes and make it all the way up there without resorting to these wall kicks.
Oh no. A little bit of
Unfortunate.
analog issuing there. I think he's trying to preserve the mask, so a little bit of
Yeah.
a drift, and
If you want to save,
unfortunate death.
yeah, if you want to save time in this section, you don't want to double jump because I think we've said it before. Because if you double jump, you lose all horizontal momentum that you have. So what you can do there, what Solarium tried to do, is just single jump around the enemies if you get a bad cycle. But yeah, if it's really bad, you have to resort to double jumping, and then yeah, pretty shameful that he died in that situation.
Eyes on target.
You say shameful?
Yeah.
Dang, we got harsh commentary out here.
Crispy entering hook, line, and sinker as Solarium is leaving.
So we see he's leaving at a 15:40. I'm just curious what kind of time difference we're at already.
Yeah. Crispy is definitely catching up RTA wise, but we also have to consider that Tears's loads were a little bit better than Reidz's. So yeah, even if he catches up, we have to remember that Reidzz has around 7 minutes and a half of advantage over Tears. So even if Crispy goes a level in front of Solarium, we still have to account for that time difference.
Hey, that's just one bad OFL, one bad nitro processing away.
Definitely.
The extreme nature of this run can be insane.
You definitely don't want to miss out for launch skip. It costs a lot of time. And yeah, also, yeah, true. Solarium also had to restart.
Oh, I
He was
forgot,
having
yeah.
issues with life split.
There were a couple minutes.
Oh, you wanted to see hook, line, and sinker, but it seems that we also have for booty calls. Looks like Tacos is exactly 1 minute ahead after booty calls.
Awesome.
Solarium changing to 30 FPS, and let's see if he gets the cannonball
Oh,
zombie.
Oh, it
Got
looks good.
Perfectly.
Wow. It actually kind of amazes me the consistency that some people hit these, because it's not easy.
Yeah, I
I remember
personally,
first Louise skip, people were there for a hot minute trying to really get it down.
I started finding it a little bit easier because 30 FPS just makes it a breeze, in my opinion.
You think so?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I can't say, like, what my consistency is because I've done it probably, like, 5 times? But I've nailed it 4 of those 5 times.
Oh,
on
wow.
30.
Okay.
But if you don't feel confident, you definitely want to switch to 30 FPS. I don't know if Crispy is switching to 30 because in his normal runs, he does it in 60 because he just does not want that time loss from menuing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing for a top level time like that, they really add up.
Yeah.
I would
2
think
seconds.
it's definitely faster to menu than it is to fail it. So he might do it for the sake of racing, but
Yeah.
consistency's sake, maybe he doesn't like the menuing.
Yeah. 2-3 seconds menuing, I don't want that in my world record.
You gotta have big
Let's-
PP for big PB, you know?
Let's see.
And nails it.
Beautiful. No need for menuing to 30. But yeah, saying again, because we're in a zombie state, you can't die. But what can happen is if you miss one of these slide spin jumps, you just fall forever. you just fall out of bounds, and you have to restart the whole level. So you have
Pretty
to
high
be,
risk.
yeah, you have to be careful. Those are not that like tricky jumps. You just have to extend your slide spin enough to make it.
That's what I've always liked about you. So dedicated to science. Not like the natives here are willing to cooperate with even a simple deadly test. I wish I was have to resort to live tests for my experiments, but you know, omelets, eggs, superpower potions, marsupial.
Effie, I have a question for you. What
Answer.
level do you think that Crispy will potentially catch Solarium at the pace that he's at right now?
The first one? Oh, where it will actually happen?
Yeah.
Probably at this current rate. I would believe it even to be off balance. I think Crispy has one of the fastest off balances there are. And so, especially if Solarium needs a little bit of a setup for it, then he could catch up that time.
Yeah.
Let's see,
And also,
2026 leaving this level, so we'll see what kind of time difference we're.
yeah, and also Crispy's Dragonon is also pretty like consistent.
Can't say I see the appeal of all that jumping you do. Perhaps I don't have the right body for it. Yeah.
Crispy waiting a little bit here. You can, quote unquote, can make that God cycle without waiting, but it's super risky. I remember Crispy kind of complaining it that in PC that God cycle is just way harder than when he used to run on the PS4.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of the skip that Solarium's doing right now, and I recently have seen that Crispy will actually use a Kano, grab the rope, and it gives you this awesome like Beyblade spin boost that I haven't seen any of the other runners do today. I don't know if
No,
it's
actually,
too high risk or.
Reidzz actually did it. I
Oh,
don't
he
know, you
did?
probably
I
missed
guess
it.
I missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can also see it in off balance. Like if you're doing a wall run while Crash has a Kano, all while you're grabbing a rope. If you release it and you trigger a Kano, you just get this massive boost. Because again, it's the boost that you have from like when you let go of the rope, you just get this massive boost. And when you trigger a Kano, you just keep that momentum that you have. Crispy nailing the rope skip. Doesn't need to wait for the rope to go back and then forward again.
Man, it does not matter which Crash game, really. The difference between a top level runner and a good runner is just always so astounding. Like his lines, there's no hesitation. It's fantastic. I love to see it.
Yeah, you can definitely see in this game the difference between like just your normal good runner and a runner that is just grinding to get that world record. He knows the game more in and out than the other runner does, and is just more comfortable with the movement in general.
My commentator cursed it. He didn't get the rope boost. My bad. The cycle didn't line up. But he does get blue gem skip, which Solarium did not.
Oh, that is super unfortunate.
You don't see that too often.
He unfortunately has to fall to die because he accidentally went too far on the ledge.
Don't you boost off of the checkpoint box?
Nah, you boost off of the... You can't boost... I don't think you can boost of the checkpoint box and have enough height, you need to boost off the stack of 2. So you boost it.
True.
Yeah, that little, just 1 box difference makes it like this jump possible. I think this is the first bad thing or worst thing that has happened in Crispy's run.
Even then, not a real deal breaker. All right, 24-13 leaving off balance.
Just stay put while I test this. Hold still. For science! Fuck the face! I just need to know if this is lethal. Stop spinning. You're making me dizzy. Fly, my gelatinous fiddlesticks. Enjoy your trip. This one has extra.
I actually have a question for the both of you commentators. So, obviously, Crispy's time is considerably better than Solarium's. Obviously, Crispy is going for a record. And I'm curious, do you think there will be a mistake on Solarium's side that will give Crispy the win? Or do you think Crispy has enough polish in his overall gameplay to where he can just kind of catch up and win just off that alone?
I think just because it's like 7-8 minutes that we're gonna need to see a combination of both. Like something goes wrong for Solarium, but also Crispy just plays out of his mind.
Yeah,
But
from what I've seen in the normals reset list that Crispy does, he usually hits a 118, 119. But then again, so far his run has not been going that bad, only with the Dragon on skip at the end going bad. And from Solarium's part, personally, I think that he might be a little bit unused to the skips, because up until recently, one of his old PBs that he had messed up out for lunch skip that ended up costing him 2 minutes in that PB.
Okay. Ooh, okay, it is interesting then, because we actually, in case no one knows, we have a prediction going. If you want to get some tokens in, and a lot of people are leaning onto a team circle for Reidzz and Solarium, and I'm just curious if Crispy, just through sheer like polish and performance, can bring this back. But yeah, I think we might need to see some hiccups on Solarium's side if we want to see Crispy kind of pull this back, or maybe he just plays really well, you know, plays PB level, but with the deaths he had earlier, I don't really know.
Yeah. But yeah, so far I actually can't tell, like, oh, he is comfortably on the lead, because both runners, I mean, Solarium is on the lead, but I don't think it is a comfortable lead.
I guess.
I mean, even within the first 20 minutes, we saw like Crispy's ahead by almost a minute. So this being about an hour 20, it's interesting to see what can happen. Plus, literally anything. Missing nitro processing skip, which is raid boss. So
that's true. I guess adding on to Cookie's question that I asked earlier in regards to Crispy's strongest, if you guys know what's Solarium's weakest, maybe we see him, we're a bit on edge of our seats for Solarium on those levels where we know maybe he's not the most polished, or maybe not as good as he wants to be.
I'll leave that one to you, Cookie. I'm not too familiar with newer runners.
I'm not too familiar with Solarium as well, because he usually streams at nap time. But what I have seen from his PBs, I don't think he has like that one weakest level. It's just a little bit all around, I'd say. He might have that level where he has a lot of time save, but I think he's one of those runners that definitely has time save more spread out across the run.
Right.
I mean, anybody with around a 120 PB is pretty darn good at the game, at least at their peak. So
For sure. I guess it's interesting then we might be seeing, coming back to what we said before about Crispy, that that more polished to his play. We might be seeing that more fluent. Ooh. I just seen the Solarium die. That was a bit unfortunate. But I guess, as we said earlier, Crispy's like polished play compared to Solarium. Obviously, Crispy is world record hunting right now. So maybe there's like we're just gonna be seeing those small things that just kind of add up. And I am curious to see if Crispy can make back the time. Again, this is Solarium's first event. Maybe he's got a bit of he's a bit anxious. Maybe he's a bit worried. Maybe that gets to him. We don't know.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the Solarium has a pretty good sum of best. Like, I think in the runs that he shared on Discord, I think he had a 117, so pretty good sum of best. Also, Crispy nailing that God cycle.
it doesn't seem like much, but man, everything just has to go right. Like God Cycle is very aptly named in this situation.
Yeah.
And Offbeat, like, it loves to eat your jumps because you're going over boxes and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Offbeat definitely a very cursed level. And yeah, we just refer to God Cycle as like, oh, it's the fastest cycle. No matter what you do, you can't go faster than that. But an Offbeat God Cycle, truly the God Cycle. Yo, chat, if we can get any jammers, like cat jammers, any music make you lose control.
I don't think this channel has any, which is tragic. No Logic Jam?
It's the intention that matters. Just seeing that cat gem pop up in chat.
Time for a spring cleaning.
Solarium now entering home cooking. I think he told me that he is gonna try and go for Bastard Skip.
Oh yes, let's go. Save the diner.
Save Dingo's Diner.
Rated D for delicious.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he hit the vacuum a little bit too early.
Do it again. You got 6 minutes ahead still. You're fine.
Crispy already catching up RTA wise, just 3-4 seconds behind. Yeah, Crispy not going for Bastard Skip. I don't think he's too familiar with it.
No, they killed the diner.
They killed the diner. F's in the chat for the diner, or D's in the chat for
Delicious.
Dingo's diner. Yes, delicious.
Dingus Dongus's diner.
I'd all them tablecloths myself.
But I do think we're gonna get roof skip from both runners. I think both runners do roof skip and blimey skip at the very end. Solarium, a little bit of trouble getting up the roof.
Ooh.
There we go. Yeah, there's a particular section where you have to use the vacuum to get a little bit of height. Because if you just normally use the vacuum, you just stay on the same place.
Ooh, are both of them going for the blind? Very nice.
Both runners going for the blind platforming.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a baby. Like, nitro processing even, I tick the checkpoint and just death abuse.
Yeah, I also In one of my recent runs, I also did that. Like, oh no, invisible? No thanks. Show me the platforms. You know, I'll take those 3 seconds of time loss for me just dying. Just show me where the platforms are. Ooh, Solarium hitting Blimey Skip. Crispy as well. Crispy is super close RTA-wise to Solarium.
Nice RTA. Oh wow, you know what though? Now we can really see it. A 33-14 versus like a 30-56, 40-54, just kidding.
Exactly. What is that? 2 minutes and 40?
Math.
Math, I know it. Now run it by you. We might have an overtaking from Crispy Spart.
Crispy coming into the chat. SMH my head. And yeah, just like that, RTA, he is now ahead.
Fire usually doesn't give that much problem to runners. The skip is fairly easy for everyone to do.
Oh yeah, this is probably one of the major ones that I'm surprised actually with PC version and the other versions they didn't invisible wall, because this one's fairly easy.
Yeah, Solarium actually dying in an unfortunate place. But yeah, actually back to what you were saying in the previous race about the PS5 version, was recently found, recently as in, I want to say 2 weeks, a little bit more, that there's an alternate skip you can do for Run It By You. Because I think you know that in the PS5, the standard Run It By You skip was patched. But there is an alternate way to do it on PS5.
Is that where you're like doing that crouch and air thing that was shown like a while back? I don't remember exactly.
It's like it starts the same way, but except instead of going for the left side where the wall is, you go for the right side. So instead of slide spinning in the background like you see here in Solarium's, you're just slide spinning but more towards the camera.
So PS5 version is technically the fastest version because you can skip all the like level completed cards at the end. And it adds up a lot over the course of a run. But it does have certain tech patched out. It's no matter of perspective, I suppose.
Yeah, that is the only reason.
Fastest.
Yeah, that's the only activity cards in PS5 is the only reason why PS5 stands alone on the speedrunning leaderboards. And because we found out that the alternate Run It By You skip, we merged back the Switch version because it was also patched on the Switch. And now with the alternate Run It By You skip, we now decided to merge back the consoles, except PS5 of course.
Oh, Crispy's trying to go zoom, but it's tricky, man. You pretty much have to predict your movement here, and at least for me, I tried it because this is way too cool. It's not easy.
You can see how 30 FPS just messes up with someone's brain. Definitely very hard to keep up with Crash hopping around in 30. Now Crispy is actually deciding to stay in 30 FPS because the Snow Dimension, we also have Stay Frosty, that also utilizes Kapunawa. So Crispy is gonna completely bypass it, menuing here to 60, and then when getting to Stay Frosty, menuing back to 30.
Besides visual aesthetic, there's no real downside to staying at 30 FPS either. Like, it doesn't impact your gameplay, it's just not visually pleasing.
Yeah, unlike Crash Insane Trilogy, Crash's like natural speed is not affected at all by the FPS. Playing at 30, playing at 60 is the same speed-wise. It just impacts. So far, of course, we've only been found that the Kapunawa is faster on 30, and that's why we capped it at 30. I mean, that is true. You get a lot more drop inputs at 30. But that is just something that, you know, you have to practice, you have to feel comfortable a little bit at 30. And yeah, technically, it doesn't cost any time. Yeah, you can see here.
Yeah, these lines on Crispy are just insane.
You can see here now that he is still on 30. It's something we didn't see on Reidz's side because Reidzz only used 30 on this rail section. You can also, there's also another Kapunawa in Stay Frosty where you can use 30. So choosing to stay at 30, definitely the play if you want to go for that top time.
And the timing on that rail section is so precise.
Yeah.
Since you can't see, it just shows the amount of dedication that a runner has here.
Let's see if Solarium also gets Spy without dying.
He ignored the tape. Oh no.
Not the tape.
How is he gonna
now,
afterwards play the best category, all Sapphire tapes?
Now at the end of Stay Frosty, Crispy is gonna switch back to 60 for, you know, more inputs, and because Kapunawa is not that much prevalent in these next few levels. Now let's see if Crispy gets that little skip that we tried to go for it with the box jump. I was told it's saved, and in any percent it saves something around 2 seconds.
Everything adds up, that's for sure. That's how we make things like 114 possible.
Yeah, definitely everything adds up. You know, if you get 2 seconds of time loss in every level, you know, you just don't have a quote-unquote good run. Oh, Crispy nailing it. So yeah, that's the skip I was talking about. Saves you the trouble from going left and then a little bit right. Ooh, Solarium taking an unfortunate death.
Oh no.
Not that big. The checkpoint was right there. Fortunately, he broke the checkpoint.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. The spin just didn't come out fast enough, unfortunately.
Solarium also trying to go for that box jump, but unfortunately he bonked on the platforms.
About that. I'm having fun. Can you tell?
Now both in the polar sections should be pretty straightforward. Just boost as much as you can. There's only one boost that is a little bit tricky, which is near when the trees start to fall. You can fit a small boost there, but it's pretty tricky, even if you have a mask, because a tree just insta-kills you. There's a lot of things in this game that just insta-kills you, no matter if you have mask, or even if you have triple mask, you still die.
In my casual playthrough of this game, there was definitely, I was just like, why do masks even exist? Because almost everything you die to is like a kill floor or something like that. It's not very often that you run to an enemy or something.
Now let's see if Crispy gets the Punchbot Skip.
Punchbot Mark II, deploy!
Oh, nah. The Punchbot came in a little bit later.
Punchbot Mark II is
I find it easier when the Punchbot comes either on the second square from the left or the right. You can still do it when he comes in later, but in my opinion, it's a lot more difficult. Yeah, you can see here, Crispy's having a little bit of bad luck with his Punchbot placements.
the anti-marsupial missile is my own design. Do you like
RNG in a speedrun? No thanks.
that Bandicoot, Punchbot?
Solarium also will go for it. He actually, he's not the one that founded it, but he made a very cool tutorial about it. Oh, let's see if Solarium getting the Punchbot glitch. So as you saw there, the Punchbot went under Cortex. So you didn't see like any blast animation. So now what he wants to do is he's not gonna do on second phase. He's gonna save it for the third and the fourth phase where he can save more time. Solarium getting the second Punchbot Skip. We are gonna skip the third and the fourth phase. So now what we want to do is Death Abuse, and now the two Punchbots that went under Cortex will spawn.
This is
Now
kind
you
of a
actually-
fascinating skip.
Yeah, now you actually can skip. No, you can't spin this Punchbot until Cortex's health appears on the top left, or else you will soft lock.
It looks so goofy too. I mean, the missiles are hitting.
Yeah.
Everything's just wild.
Those missiles, they're a little bit weird because they only hit you if you're like standing. You can jump through the missile and not get damaged.
Now that could be kind of big for our story because Solarium just needs to pretty much maintain about the same distance, and so any time, gain is helping his team out for sure.
Definitely. Now that we're pretty much in the exact middle of the run, it's definitely looking pretty good for Solarium and Reidzz. Fortunately, no deaths. And Crispy's part, I don't know why I find it shouldn't be hard, but I always find it somewhat difficult like the depth perception when you're on these vines. When you get to the last part, there's like these two trees where you have to,
Prehistoric predators like my
dodge to the left and the right, and somehow I still die to that.
Who's laughing now? Me. Ooh, bouncy.
Crispy making good use of Cortex.
I wasn't sure why people did the death abuse, but setting up the cycle makes sense. I'm glad you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
Ooh, I've never tried a volcano lair. Do good guys have volcano lairs? Much to learn. On second thought, no volcano lair. I can feel my nostril hairs sizzling.
Now let's see here in the last part of Cortex section. If you can, you want to, a little bit of optimization, you want to bounce on that box that unfortunately Crispy broke. It's a little bit of optimization that you can do, that because if you bounce on that box, it can just immediately boost to the right. But you know, you have to pray that Cortex cooperates, which is, you know, not that easy. I find the Dino Dimension to be, except, you know, fossil fuel with Cortex and all, I find the Dino Dimension to be one of the most pleasant ones to run. Not a lot of time loss that you can have. You can have a few, probably missed hole skips with slide spins on Dino Dash, mainly on the part where the ground is covered with lava.
Yeah, that's where I've also found, and it's just a weird timing, and your depth perception adds into it as well. It's like the green ones, they make sense, but the lava, you're kind of fighting gravity there. It doesn't.
Yeah, definitely
Physics
because
makes sense.
Definitely because I think it's the tree or like a little vine that you have to slide under seems to have a much bigger hitbox than what it seems to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you spin, as I said before, you start going down. And if you spin too early, you end up bonking in that vine and then falling into the lava. Which doesn't cost that much because the checkpoint is right behind it, but then you get a death cycle and they tend to be a little bit more jank. And of course, when you're practicing levels, of course you're not going to practice the death cycle.
I guess I can ask. We actually have Reidzz and Tears on standby if and they can give their summary of the first race while we're kind of plowing through the second half of the run. If that's what people want to listen to, then I'll drag them in. If that's show with the commentators and stuff.
That sounds wonderful to me, actually.
Yeah. If they're ready, bring them in.
Okay. Reidzz and Tears, you guys there?
Hey man, what's up?
Hey.
Welcome.
guys. Good showings, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for saving the diner.
No worries.
Tears, congrats on your PBE.
Oh yeah, congrats.
Yeah, I
sis.
did PB for like 20 seconds.
Yeah. And Reidzz, you seem to have a bit of a case with body slams.
No. I don't know what happened.
He's a savage.
All right. I don't know what happened. There was just a few moments. I did it as like a joke at some points, and at other points it was like, I'm just bad, basically.
It was too real. Oh god.
Yeah.
I guess we can start with Tears then. Considering you PB Tears, how do you feel overall about your performance today? Are you happy you played well? Maybe you were wanting to play a little better. Like, how you feeling?
I'm expecting better, but at the end of the day, I still get PB, and I only have like 2 or 3 days to practice any percent. And initially, I'm gonna focus on the out for launch. But at the end of the day, like I got coached by Harvey and Jamie. So I managed to do like 5 skips, managed to even pull off. But in the run, I failed the nitro processing skip, the second skip. But in the end, I'm still happy. So yeah, super happy.
I highly applaud your guys', especially in a race setting like this, the awareness to kind of go for backups or just not try and overcommit to a skip, because sometimes that can be real draining on time. So good decision making, I think, to not really go for them a second time.
Yeah.
And Reidzz as well. How you feeling? I know obviously there's the body slam jokes going on, but did you feel like you did enough for Solarium and for your team, or are you happy with how you did?
Oh, yeah, I'm happy that like the run still went okay. All I really wanted was like a sub 120, but I am not exactly consistent at that yet. I did get like 6 golds throughout it, but like 3 of them were accidental. It was just a random, a happy coincidence.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, really just what Gaffy said with like, most of the time it's just when you mess up a skip, it's all about just saying, okay, don't do that again, play it safe, and just see what happens. I did that on Stay Frosty. I went 30 FPS on the rail, died, and said, okay, just don't do it again, just go through it. Yeah. Just try and get some time for my team, really. That was it.
And I think it's really interesting too, the fact you got a bastard skip in the run. I think that was
that will never happen again.
I was gonna say that's the first time I've ever seen it, and I can imagine for a couple of people in the stream too, that might be the first time they've seen it too. So I'm really happy someone was able to pull that off on a race.
Yeah, I'm just I was trying to pull off every skip I knew about just to hopefully showcase it, but at the same time I did also want to try and make sure that everybody, not everybody, Solarium had some time to work with, so he was allowed to make like a few mistakes.
Right. I respect the balance. It was a really good balance there. Alright, well, thank you guys for the summary. Hopefully the second half of your guys' team do well, and we'll maybe have you guys back at the end of the race to kind of talk banter between the teams.
Yeah, I'll be around. I'm happy with that.
Alright, but yeah, thank you guys for coming in.
No worries, man. Hashtag Team Circle.
Take it to social media, lads. Hashtag Team Circle, get it trending.
Now, for our storyline, of course, in this race, while we had them on, we did have out for launch, which is one of the big equalizers, I think, just since it's such a large out of bounds portion. And both runners actually nailing it, so we're staying about where we've been.
Yeah, I didn't notice what time Crispy got when he left out for lunch, but I will definitely look in, not shipping her, stowing away. But yeah, also if you guys noticed what Crispy did at the very end of out for lunch, because he still had Ika where you're not supposed to, he switched gravity at the very end of the level, and the ending animation was Crash just flipped upside down.
Oh yeah, I love that it maintains mask effects, just like having Kano.
And because usually when you finish the level, it gives you an option of retrying it, if you want to get the gems that you didn't get, or you can get out and go to the next level. And usually Crash, if you select next level, usually Crash goes to the right, but because he's upside down, he actually goes to the left. Also, I don't think I mentioned, let's see if Solarium does it. In this last metal crate that you can activate, you can There you go. A little bit cuffed, but he did it. You can slide immediately back before the crushers, the quote-unquote crushers, crush you, because if you get crushed, you actually don't die. You just sort of embed into them, but you can just normally slide out of them. So very cool little optimization that saves a little bit of time and doesn't really cost you because you don't die.
Now, while we just have, you know, a little bit of catch up going through the Schnurgle level, I do want to give a second to shout out, and this is for a lot of runners, a lot of Sprash and PlayStation speedrunning. Next Friday and Saturday, Speed Dockathon will be doing its second weekend, and we have a lot actually. So Cam will be running Spyro 1 120. Logic is actually going to be running Spyro 2 100%. Clock is going to be running NST 1 any percent. And then on Saturday, I'll be running Crash 2 for NST, and Crispy will be running C4 any percent. So you'll want to be sure to check that out.
And that is definitely filled with a lot of Crash and Spyro action.
Mm-hmm. Represent that Sprash community. I'm going to post a schedule just so you can see it in your own local time zones. It is a little later for C2 and C4 on Saturday, but, you know, we're all degenerates anyway. We're on Twitch.
Crispy taking an unfortunate death. That will cost him a little bit. Definitely don't want to die at the Schnurgle section.
Yeah, it's not the shortest one either. Boosting in this game. You know what the problem is? Oh, wow.
Both runners taking a death to Schnurgle. Thankfully, Solarium's one wasn't that big.
Tim the cat being a bit of a troll.
Now, while we're at the rail section in Crispy, did you guys know Sprash HD finally has an emote? So, you know, you wanna hit that prime.
Any primers? Also be sure to catch all the previous VODs, which this has been going on for a bit over, I think, almost 2 months now, so that almost every Saturday has been a race, so be sure to check out Insert Logic's YouTube channel where he uploads all the VODs. But I mean, imagine not already being subscribed to Insert Logic on YouTube.
Hey, Crispy, because he's playing with Crash, we get instead the woe meme that we didn't get to see with Tears and Reidzz.
Bandicoots are considered pests, as fit for extermination as a butterfly.
Oh, how modern.
Also, I'd like to mention, there is actually a skip in the Entropy boss fight that you can't do on PC, you can only do on console. By using infinite Akano jumps that are patched in the PC version, basically every time you can body slam and trigger Akano at the same time, and you consistently keep getting more and more height. So what you can do is, immediately after leaving the rail section, you can grab Akano and head back and do... I don't know much about it. I think it's like 10 infinite Akano jumps in a row, and then you just let Crash fall. And it so happens that there's one of those boxes that triggered the end animation, so it completely skips doing the Entropy boss fight, and it saves around 50, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's a skip that it's only available on console. Solarium also hitting the funny.
In my
Now coming up, we have it
Interesting
once
to
again.
see. Yeah.
Coming up once again, we have the food run skip.
We're getting kind of later into the run now, so in order for Team R1 to really kind of bring it back, I think Solarium's gonna have to miss a major skip. So we will see for sure.
He can't. We don't want that to happen, of course.
No, no.
He can die to food run skip.
I'm just expressing potential possibilities in the storyline.
This game being very skip heavy, it's basically still anyone's game at this point. Hey everyone, let's see if we're correctly aligned with the cloud. And then if we're also correctly aligned with the right side of this building right here. Crispy was a little bit to the left there, but he can't make it.
Luckily, good awareness.
Ooh, Solarium trying to utilize a little bit of the Capuno Watt tech, which is the name we call it for those little time warps. Okay, let's see. Solarium hitting food run skip. We forgot to mention, but when you're standing on that bottom part of that platform, you want to do like this L-shaped movement, because if you don't, you trigger the death plane.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants death.
Does this mean I have franchise?
It seems like once you get like getting past that death plane, there's more visual cues than when we were first kind of discovering that this was a thing. And those always tend to help with runs.
Let's see, Solarium seems to be looking good on that food run. Let's hope the level loads. There we go. I think right now, as it stands, if Solarium doesn't mess around too much, right now I can say that he has a comfortable lead.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Like, there is still Crody Skip, but it doesn't lose that much time every time you die.
Wonder what the local delegate
Which that just speaks to the volumes of the runners. I mean, even with Tears PBing, there is just that notable of a difference, and everyone else playing so consistently that personal best, like the peaks are really showing right now. So game one had such a defining lead that as long as Solarium plays consistent, then his team is set up to win this thing. Which high stakes competition, I know, lots of bragging rights on the table. Are there any mouse and keyboard runners for this game?
I don't I don't think there are.
I can't imagine.
It's not even mouse, it's just keyboard.
Okay, sure. Potty a Switch controller user. playing Crash 4. Okay.
Because this, if I'm not mistaken, you have your usual WASD to move, and then you have J for jumping, K for spinning, and L for sliding, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my.
I don't remember where triangle or where the trigger for the masks is, but that's probably because I never made it far enough in just keyboard to get the masks.
As with, like, why would you? Oh, one sec, my headphones are acting up.
Oh yeah.
Solarium missing that hook shot that he can do after bouncing on that box. Crispy carefully navigating the end portion of not food run, rush hour.
I'm gonna have to figure out how to play this game with the GameCube controller. Alright, I'll sell them now. Switch Pro controllers with out for launch notches. It gives you the perfect lineup every time. $200.
Cortex, please shoot that TNT. As you just saw, Cortex, sometimes he just does his thing.
Oh, I think Crispy was going for like an early cycle there.
Yeah. I don't know much about that cycle. For me, it seems random, or probably it's global, as soon as you enter the level, that cycle's already going. Ooh, Solarium dying in the last taunt section, but that was at the beginning, so no worries. Just a small death. Solarium taking another death.
Now, if you're Team R1, you love to see it.
Get those channel points ready. Thankfully, we don't have to... Oh no, wait, never mind. We're still gonna see Cortex and Solarium's screen.
Sweet. He is kind of a bona fide 10, so...
Oh, Crispy getting the yeet animation there.
Oh yeah.
At the end of Crate Escape. If you stand on one of those blocks that he was standing and trigger the end box at the same time, Crash just gets yeeted because the game still thinks he's on top of that box, and of course the box is sending him backwards. So that's what ended up happening at that animation. Crispy now entering nitro processing. Getting closer to Crody Skip. Let's see how it goes.
I'll be holding my breath.
Both Reidzz and Tears actually got it first try, so let's see how Crispy does it. Crispy goes for a harder setup and still gets it first try.
Whoever said this was hard? Everybody gets it first try. Easy.
And he chooses to go for the level while it's still unloaded. He does not want death abuse.
This will be interesting. This is kind of one of the last major time deciders in seeing who can really take this one home.
Yeah. Now because he didn't take that checkpoint to death... Oh no, he did spin that checkpoint. Never mind. But yeah, if you miss that checkpoint and you die while doing the second skip, you go all the way back before Crody Skip.
Actually, and I don't want to sway an opinion one way or another, but if you're Solarium and you don't get nitro processing skip the first try, do you just go the intended route? I think your team might have enough time ahead that it's an interesting gamble.
Yeah, of course, if you're Solarium, you're not gonna see where Crispy is at, of course. Solarium also with the yeet animation.
Yo, dude.
But yeah, if you're Solarium, you're not gonna know how good Crispy is doing. But knowing Solarium, I don't think he would skip not going for the Crody Skip. Because still, it's a skip that doesn't lose you that much time if you die, and even if you make it second, third try, you still save time. But you know, let's see how it goes. You don't want to slide at nitro. Okay, he's setting up for the Crody Skip. Ooh, that's unfortunate. So you see that right there? First time was a early jump, second time and a late jump.
There it is.
There you go.
Sometimes, and self-included, I think a lot of people, especially in this game, death can kind of really affect your mental, and so it's very famous, especially when you're running, that you die once, you wind up dying 5 times. So to see that he's able to kind of keep his composure and wind up getting it fairly quick.
Ooh, having a body slam. He accidentally bounced on one invisible box, and because he didn't know the box was there, he was ready to start chaining slide spins. But of course, he bounced on that box and body slammed after that R1 prompt. Anyhow, as you were saying, this game, with personal experience as well, it's super easy to let just one death just completely snowball. Oh, Solarium breaking the checkpoint and going for the level while it's still unloaded. While we're having a beautiful toxic tunnels in Crispy's part. To be honest, I wasn't too much focused on Crispy's side, but I don't think he has died in the entire.
Yeah, I've been watching. He's this is one of his favorite levels, so it's very rare that something goes wrong for him here.
It's also one level that you, as a high-level runner, want to practice a lot, because you definitely do not want to mess it up when you get to this level on PB pace.
I hate that level, personally. It has so much going for it as well, to like raise the skill ceiling for it, which is great. You love to see that kind of thing. But, oh, it's just pain. Oh, no.
He unfortunately did not land on that platform, and he didn't take the checkpoint.
One of those nice little face plants.
That was unbelievably close. I do not know how he got away with that.
Oh my god.
I do not know how he got away with that. Crispy almost getting damage there, but he actually didn't.
Yeah,
he's getting away with a lot of
stuff. Faster than the saw blade, and then
castle.
jumped on top of it. That was actually insane.
Yeah, you're supposed to like do a few slide spins before getting on top of that saw blade, but that was super close. Solarium unfortunately taking a death in Toxic Tunnels, not that big from what I saw. It was pretty close to the checkpoint, and this is why we want to have the mask for Cortex Castle to do that section, or to do that damage abuse that Tacoz just did. Tacoz looking at a comfortably 117 if he doesn't mess up the jump.
That's incredible.
I don't think Crispy is a runner that would fail the jump. Every time I see him do it, oh, you gotta love those.
Yeah, it requires some third-party factor, some IRL to mess him up, I think.
That shoot-o-matic that Crispy just body slammed, it's also RNG, actually, because it just, sometimes it goes up super fast, sometimes it goes up super slow. And Crispy had it again. Because if it comes up super slow and you end up body slamming while the shoot-o-matic is going up, it will not register your body slam. So Crispy unfortunately getting it twice. Let's hope he doesn't get it another time.
I can smell smell your fleas boiling. Careful, I might flip. Yes, your whole world is upside down. Confused? Disoriented? I can see your tiny brain cells frying themselves. Unbelievable!
Yeah, I think Crispy took that shoot-o-matic a little bit slower because he didn't want another
third time
unregistered
me
body
at
slam.
that point.
Can't keep up the pace.
And now let's pray for it and the big boy jump.
Ready, set. Power me, unbelievable!
There you go, beautifully. Now he should be sitting at a comfortably mid 117, like 117, 34, 35 would be my guess. Getting again no body slam for that shoot-o-matic 3 times. That is pretty unfortunate.
It's almost unbelievable, actually.
There you go, a 1741.
GG, not like this.
That is pretty good for a resetless.
I mean, only one real, like, maybe 2 major mistakes, and even then, debatable.
Definitely.
And that's that kind of top level consistency that I was talking about. He's just crazy.
Yeah, after this, it just shows like how high of a level Crispy is, and that he's definitely a contender to get a world record in this category. And I think sooner or later he will get it. He has been grinding a lot, so it's just a matter of time, a matter of just praying to Bob, praying to Cortex, praying to everything.
It's definitely not easy. That top level competition from like Javi and Jordy, Damo, it's not easy to get anywhere near those times.
And that is pretty close to Crispy's PB. That's less than 1 minute away. So that is a pretty solid run.
Shoot-o-matic! Shoot! Resistance! Help! Time out! Time out!
Again, that peak level just really showcasing here. As volatile as this run could be, all runners played fairly consistent. We even had the 1 PB by Tears, so overall, great running from everybody.
I can smell your fleas boiling. Careful, I might flip.
I've been notified by the chat that Solarium might actually be on PB pace.
The whole world is upside down.
I think his time leaving Cortex Castle, it's like just barely impossible. Like by a few seconds.
I didn't see his time leaving Cortex Castle, so I can't say.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah. It would, if possible, it'd be like a 1 or 2 second.
Can't keep up the pace.
Yeah, looking at the time right now that he's on, yeah, it's gonna be super close.
Ready, set. Power be unbelievable. Persistent.
Solarium hitting the big boy jump.
Rude.
Yes, barely not gonna PB.
Bored of your shenanigans.
But super close. Might still be a 21, actually. Yeah, there goes his PB, 121.48. And yeah, very low 121, super close to his PB.
But again,
55,
he did miss hit the
7
road
seconds away.
and a reset. So
That is true.
hopefully
7
we see
seconds
big
away.
PB coming soon.
Yeah. He's definitely a super strong contender for the next sub 120. And this run just goes to show. Like, he did mess up early game a lot. Like, he died, I don't think he died in the first 2 levels, but he died on real grind, he died on crash compactor, he missed hit the road. So yeah, it's definitely a matter of time until Solarium joins that sub 120.
Alright, well, I have another obligation to get to, so I will leave you guys for post commentary and stuff like that. It's been a pleasure.
Yes,
out, guys.
Thank
Been a
you,
good
Gaffy,
game.
for the shift today. Great showing from you. Really happy. A really good job on comms, my man. Really appreciate it.
Mwah. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya. Alright, well, I mean, I guess we'll drag Crispy and Solarium in here, but before that, Cookie, what did you think of the relay in its entirety?
I find it super fun. Every single of the 4 runs that were showcased, for the amount of like skill that the runners have, were insanely good. Like I said in the beginning, candidates for PB were Solarium and Tears. Tears ended up PBing, and Solarium just being 7 seconds away from his PB while missing like hit the road skip, which is a pretty big deal. So yeah, it was still pretty strong run from Crispy as well. 117.41, pretty strong from what I've seen. His usuals reset lists are usually low 118, sometimes a 119 to 117, less than 1 minute away from his PB is also super good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like you said, we were saying at the beginning we were hoping for 2 runners to PB today, or just anyone to PB.
Yeah.
Obviously, Tears snagging that PB and Solarium getting extremely close. And I think, in the end, even with Solarium being really close, Crispy as well, or 117 to really strong, and Reidzz too having a really good run, I guess the motivation side of it, I'm hopeful that the runners kind of take away this event as maybe a motivator to them, you know, obviously.
Definitely.
Yeah, like Tears obviously with the PB and everyone getting pretty close. Hopefully it provides that little kick to go up another skill bracket, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think we'll bring in Solarium and Crispy and kind of get their thoughts on their runs and see what they have to say. Alright, Crispy and Solarium, you guys there?
Hello.
Hello. Alright guys, first of all, GG. Great runs from the both of you, thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, I know before the race I said I'd be happy like a 123 or 125, and now I'm only 7 seconds off my PB.
Yeah, you played really well, dude.
Honestly, everyone played outstanding. Like, it was incredible. I guess Solarium, considering well, your team won, Team O.
Yes, sir.
Pulled it away. How did you think of your performance today? Obviously, 7 seconds off your PB, really impressive. Do you feel any kind of motivation? Maybe something during that run that you messed up, kind of kicking you in the backside now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously early game, like my early game's been very scuffed as of late. I mean, hit the road, I had to restart that level. Originally when going for my jump, I didn't hit the checkpoint box as intended, so I kind of threw myself off and I didn't get the jump I needed. But there was some other scuffed stuff beyond them, but I think I started to like play really well whenever I got the double bot skip in Cortex 1. That kind of pumped me up a lot. So I kind of like finished off about as strong as I could.
Right. Yeah, I'm really happy. I hope that you're gonna look at this and go, now I'm beating this, and then maybe over the next couple of days you might be seeing a few more PBs from you.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% getting a sub 120 soon. I feel it.
Ooh,
love that. No, I believe it.
For
I
real.
definitely think, like, you've been playing super well lately. Like, I think you could get a sub 120. Like, in the not even in the distant future. I'm saying like pretty soon you will.
Yeah, I think it's so too.
Let's put bets on it. 2 weeks. On. Like that's that. All right, well, Crispy as well. Congrats on your run. I know, sadly, team didn't win, but considering you've been grinding world record paces, a 117 for you. Are you pretty happy with that, or are you, you know, a little bit off with it?
Honestly, I was just suspecting like anything below 120 is okay with me. So 117, I'm like not even a minute away from my PB for this run, and I got like bobbed like 4 times. Like I died on Dragonon because for some reason, like after I did a slide spin, it took me to the left of the platform I was standing on, so I fell, which lost me like almost 30 seconds, probably more than that honestly. And then I died again in there. So Dragonon, I had like 2 deaths. I had a death and Snow Way Out, my inputs were just not working, so it's just like, all right, this level's gonna go terrible. And then crash landed. I tried to do a dash on one of the sections of the platforms and it didn't come out, so I died. So after like overall, like it was like I got the important stuff out of the way. Like I got Jetboard Jetty, Cannonball Skip first try, I got Nitro Processing Skip first try, the Crody Skip. And all the important stuff, like I got like Food Run Skip, obviously, like it went well. So like all that out of the way, like all the minor time losses is just whatever to me. Like if I could just eliminate all those minor time losses and stuff, I think I could be able to get a world record soon.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask that. Obviously, only less than a minute of your PB with those deaths. Surely you're gonna feel maybe a bit motivated, but you just said right there that you're in the mood.
Yeah,
you know, that's great news.
I mean, I'm not gonna run today, sadly, because you know. I got plans for today, but yeah, I will try and go for not PB. Well, yeah, PB also, but I'll go for a world record again tomorrow, most likely.
All right. Well, thank you guys for the post race 2 commentary. You guys did a great job again. I really appreciate the insight.
Yeah. It was really fun being on. I really appreciate you holding this event.
Oh yeah,
yeah, this was dope. I'm looking forward to another one in the future.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for putting in a shift. Obviously, Solarium, it's your first event running in. Hopefully, it was. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Obviously, you know, nerves at the beginning, but you know, settles pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm happy. Nerves, obviously, is going to be natural, but I'm really happy you showed up today, 100%. I'm really proud of you for that. Honestly, great showing.
Wow, thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys again. I'll be moving you guys out. All right, Cookie, thank you so much for the comms today. Did a wonderful job. Honestly, thoroughly
Thanks for
impressed.
having me.
Yeah,
It's always a pleasure.
I'm always grateful for the shift that yourself founders put into the event. So thank you, my man. All right, well. That concludes the weekend event for Crash 4 Any %. Honestly, really good event today. Really happy with how the runners did. The comms as well was incredible. I'm impressed and blown away every Saturday, I swear. I'll keep saying it. It may get old. I don't care. I am always really impressed by the competition and the runners coming in, giving their A game, you know, giving their 110%, and even people on comms, 110%, always trying to be educational and comedic. I love it. But I want to thank you guys in chat, you know, keeping the chat going, having jokes in the chat, vibing. I want to thank you guys so much for that.